So we all know just how important protein is. It's especially important if your goal is to lose body fat and build muscle. But do you ever get confused knowing how much protein you should be eating each day? Well, this is the exact equation that I use to calculate my clients' daily protein intake. So you can use this equation to calculate your own daily protein goal. And this can help you speed up your fat loss and muscle growth goals. So let's get into it. The amount of protein that you need each day is within a range, and the range that I like to use is between 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So let's use a 60 kilogram person as an example. The lower end of their protein range is going to be 1.5 times their body weight. So 1.5 times 60, that equals 90 grams. The higher end of that range is going to be 2 times 60, which is 120 grams of protein. So the range for that individual is going to be between 90 and 120 grams of protein every single day. If you're in a fat loss phase, I recommend setting your target at the higher end of that range. It's just going to ensure that you're eating enough protein so that you can preserve all of your muscle mass during your deficit. Hope that helped. If you want a video on exactly how I calculate my clients' calorie intake, drop a comment below and I'll do a separate video on that. But thanks for watching. I hope that helped and I will catch you in my next video. Mwah. Bye.
One user says, wait, I am a 107 kilogram woman. I should be eating 214 grams of protein a day. This sounds impossible. I already eat about 150 grams protein per day with a protein bar, protein yogurt, breakfast, chicken or egg-based lunch, and tuna-based dinner, all within 1700 calories. How on earth can I get any more? Oh my gee, I wouldn't say that last part. So another person replies to this comment and says, I am the same. Even 190 grams is out of reach. I try to do a minimum of 30 grams protein and aim for 50 grams per meal or snack. But it's so filling, I get to 150 grams and I struggle. The confusion about how much protein we need is real. And as I will show in this video, even fitness influencers cannot seem to agree on how much protein we need when we are losing weight. The problem with this is that we live in a world that glorifies protein to the point that people openly say that protein is king, which is something that you have probably heard at some point, especially for people who want to lose weight. In fact, we have protein in almost every food that we have today. Cereal, lunch bars, juice, and even water. And the list goes on. So, is protein really the way to lose weight? Is it the key to losing weight? Do we really need to be having that much protein? Or is this yet another weight loss myth? Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Daisy, aka D, and I make weekly videos debunking weight loss myths. If you have been here before, welcome back. Our weight loss myth for today is that you need a high protein diet in order to lose weight. And that brings us to weight loss myth number 14 in the series. As we do on this channel, I will break down the video into 3 sections. Section 1 will cover why we believe that we need a high protein diet to lose weight. Section 2 will go into the science. And section 3 will give you the actionable insights that have been backed by science and which I also use in my Better in 90 program. I will include several videos that I came across on TikTok, which will help us understand other people's perspectives, especially fitness influencers, on protein and weight loss as a whole. Let's get started. Very many people on weight loss journeys prioritize protein. They start their days with egg whites, they snack on protein shakes, and they end their days with chicken breasts, or like that lady says, tuna or chicken-based lunches and dinners. So where did this fascination with protein begin?
How to calculate your protein intake based on your goals. Why do we need to eat so much protein, you say? Protein is key in building and repairing muscle, so if we want to see muscle growth. It's also key when we want to see fat loss, as it is the most satiating macro and it also has the highest thermic effect. It uses more calories to be digested than any other macro. For this reason, we actually want to eat higher protein when we're trying to lose fat, and you can afford to eat a little bit less protein when you're trying to build muscle. Protein goal is based on your body weight, so I'll pop the numbers up here based on what your goal is and what your body weight is. For example, I weigh 62 kilos, so this is around about what I would eat. Make sure to check out my other videos for more info on how to hit your protein target.
I know that was fast, so I'm going to go back and show you what the numbers are. For fat loss, she says you need to eat 2 to 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. And if you want to build muscle, she says that you need to eat 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And this video got a lot of attention. And we have someone saying 230 grams, my 2 grams times 115, or should I do my goal weight? Because can you imagine eating 230 grams of protein per day? The second one says, how the H am I supposed to take 115 grams of protein every day? That's barely my weekly intake. And this is me trying, okay, now that's a problem. If your weekly intake is barely 115 grams, that's a problem. And then we have the third one, how am I supposed to eat 430 grams of protein a day? I actually don't know how you would do that. I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but it's a lot of protein. It's too much. That I think has too much protein. That's going to be in my next video. But 430 grams of protein, wow. Someone else says, girl, Why is it that some say 0.8 pounds? Now it's 1.6 kilograms. Because if you have come across these equations on how much protein you should eat, you might have come across some people talking about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. But I'm going to get into the numbers later. Finally, we have this user who says, I am 75 kilograms. How many grams of protein do I have to eat to lose weight? I am not understanding the math. And then someone replies, you need to eat 150 grams of protein every day to lose weight, which is based on the upper end that she mentioned, which is 2 grams, because she said 2 grams to 2.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. So yes, if you're 75 kilograms, based on this, you'll need to eat at least 150 grams of protein per day. So why did we all become so fascinated with
protein?
First, we have fitness influencers. If you go online, we'll see that very many fitness influencers advocate for a very high protein diet. And I'm talking about fitness influencers, you know, your bodybuilders, athletes, gym bros and gym girls, and other people whose bodies are evidently a byproduct of working very hard in the gym. These influencers openly consume diets that are very high in protein, and many of them average 2 to 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And when other people see their gains, they start thinking that they also have to eat diets that are very high in protein in order to lose weight, despite the fact that these athletes and these fitness influencers are following diets that have been designed to suit the hypertrophy focused training that they engage in, and because they are very active. And this often requires them to eat an average of 2 grams of protein per kilogram of their body weight, which brings us to about 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. And people follow these without thinking of why these people are eating diets that are very high in protein, because you'll have an office worker who's eating like a bodybuilder, and I will get into why that does not necessarily work. Secondly, we have marketing. In the year 2026, and even in the previous years, we have had a very big problem with protein washing. And the problem with protein washing is that people have come to believe that protein is so key to losing weight and is such a key macro that they think that as long as something has protein, then it is considered healthy, and it might even be a fat burner, because many people say that protein has a high thermic effect of food, which is true, but it's not that high. But then people think that protein is a fat burner and it's a healthy food, so if something has protein, then it is healthy. And once marketers got onto this idea that protein was now the in thing, they started marketing their products as being high in protein in order to attract this new and very, very big market. And now we have protein in everything: cookies, yogurt, popcorns, and very many other highly processed foods out there, including crisps. And that's because as long as these foods have that high protein label, then people think that these foods are healthy. And that gives them the green light to overconsume these ultra-processed foods, which is another problem that we'll be dealing with soon. But for now, that's feeding into this idea that protein has to be in your diet if you're trying to lose weight. Third, we have the confusion about the recommended daily allowance, which is what we refer to as the RDA. Now, the recommended daily allowance of protein is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which in pounds is 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Often people think that this RDA is the minimum required in order to avoid health issues that will result from a low protein intake. But in reality, this RDA is actually enough to meet the health needs of 97.5% of the healthy adult population. But because people already think that this number is too low, they overcompensate by doubling or tripling it, because they think that this will give them the highest benefits, while in fact what they are doing is overconsuming protein, which can lead to the overconsumption of calories, which can actually make them gain weight.
How much protein should you be eating if you want to lose weight? Every woman's protein needs are different, but one thing is pretty universally true from what I've seen. Most women I speak to are eating less than 50 grams of protein a day, which is way lower than what I recommend to reach your weight loss goals. So I'm gonna give you some simple, easy to follow advice to help you reach your protein goals. Everyone's protein needs are different, but I want you to aim for 100 grams of protein per day. The reason I say this is because your protein needs actually might be a little bit higher, but if you're already less than 50 grams, we want to start slow and start with a number that feels a little bit more achievable for you. The easiest way to do this is make sure you're having a protein source with every single meal, and if you're a snacker, try to have snacks that have protein in it as well. Aim for 100 grams of protein a day, and I promise you, if you stay consistent with this, you will start seeing some results. And if you need help putting together nutritional strategies built for your lifestyle and your goals that's effective for you to lose weight, then click the link in my bio and let me help you out.
So there we're being told that we need 100 grams of protein per day, regardless of our weight loss goals and regardless of our weight and all of those other factors. I like that she said that everyone's protein needs are different, but then she goes on to recommend 100 grams of protein regardless. And she gets this question, but is that only protein? What about calories? Can I keep my calories, but as long as I add the protein, I lose weight? Because again, we've said that people think that protein is the key to losing weight. So some people might think that as long as they're going high on their protein, they will lose weight regardless of their calorie intake. And that brings us to our fourth point, which is the satiety factor. Have you heard that protein keeps you feeling fuller for longer? Many people say this. Fitness influencers say this. Nutritionists say the same thing. Even dietitians agree. Even I have said it on numerous occasions. Because it's true that protein does stimulate your satiety hormones such as GLP-1. Yes, you do have that naturally in your body. However, this stimulation of satiety hormones has a cap. And research has shown that once you get to 25 to 30 grams of protein in one meal, then adding more protein to your meal will have very little effect on your satiety. But it will have an effect on your effective calorie count. Okay, now we get where people think that protein is important to lose weight. Now let's talk about the science. Because we do live in a time where people think that they must have a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So where exactly is the science on this?
Alright, this video is part 2 on how many calories you need to eat to lose weight, protein addition. If you scroll through my page, you'll see a dozen videos on how to hit your protein goals because it is the most important macronutrient when it comes to weight loss. Learning this principle is literally what allowed me to lose 50 pounds and keep it off. Welcome to class. In the last video, in order to calculate how many calories we need to eat per day, we were taking the goal weight and multiplying it by 12. In the example gave, 150 calories multiplied by 12 is 180 calories per day. In order to calculate our protein, we're going to take our goal weight and multiply it by 0.8. If we're using the same goal weight, 150 pounds multiplied by 0.8, you get 120 grams of protein per day. If we're using the same goal weight of 150 pounds multiplied by 0.8, you get 120 grams of protein per day. I like to take it one step further and break it down by meal. So if you eat 3 meals a day, you'll need 40 grams of protein per meal, and at 4 meals a day, you'll need 30 grams of protein a meal. Breaking down your macros by meal makes it so much easier to hit your goals. Because there is nothing worse than getting to the end of your day and realizing that you have 300 calories to get 60 grams of protein in. As much as I love raw dogging some broiled chicken breasts at 7 p.m. And that's it. If you're looking for specific recipes on how to actually reach that protein goal, then head on over to my Instagram, which is linked in my profile. Bye.
In her case, she uses the 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. One person calculates their protein goals based on this formula and gets to 128 grams of protein. And they're like, Lord, help me. And someone else says, I'll have to eat 176 grams of protein. Ain't no way. And that brings us to the first point when it comes to science, which is protein has its limitations. We aim for these very high numbers when it comes to protein, 176 grams, we saw 430 grams, we saw around 214 grams of protein per day. These are high numbers. But does your body actually need this much protein? According to research, your body has a muscle protein synthesis cap. And this refers to how much protein that your body can actually use. And beyond this limit, beyond this cap, the extra protein goes through a process called deamination, in which the nitrogen is stripped away and the carbon skeleton that remains is converted into glucose, which your body can either use for energy, or if it does not have need for that energy, it can store that extra energy as fat. And for many people, this cap is 0.25 to 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per meal. And now we come back to the RDA, because like I said, many people think that the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, the recommended dietary allowance for protein is too low because it's 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. But did you know that many people, many adults actually meet the RDA? Research shows that in developed countries, many people consume an average of 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of their body weight, which is definitely above the 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is the RDA. And if you were to put this in pounds, this would be 0.55 to 0.68 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And this means that many healthy adults already have enough protein to meet their daily needs. But what if they're trying to lose weight? Now, this is where it gets interesting, because yes, their protein needs will change to account for muscle loss and muscle preservation, which is a very important component when it comes to fat loss. But like I've said, many people are already eating 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, the recommendation for people who are losing weight is 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which brings us to 0.55 to 0.73 grams of protein per pound of body weight, which is very similar to what they're already consuming, because we're talking about 1.2 to 1.6. They're already consuming 1.2 to 1.5. And since these people already have enough protein to not only meet their daily needs, but also account for muscle preservation if they try to lose fat, if they start eating more protein, if they start eating as much protein as they see being advertised out there, then there's a very high likelihood that they'll end up eating more protein than they need, and this converts to more calories than they need, and this leads to weight gain. And number 4, let's talk about the calories, because it's always about the calories. Here we'll come back to the same thing that I say in almost every video, which is calories in versus calories out. Many studies have proven this over and over again by comparing different diets with different macro values. And they have found that as long as they keep the calorie content the same, the calorie amount the same, it doesn't matter if someone is on a high carb diet, a high protein diet, a high fat diet, if the calories are equal, then the weight loss trend will be the same. Of course, the health outcomes will be different because different macros have different effects on our health. But when it comes to weight loss, then it's calories in versus calories out. And so they have found that when it comes to protein, a high protein diet will only lead to weight loss if that person is in a calorie deficit. I will also add that for some people, excess protein can actually be harmful, which is something that I will cover in my next video. And this is because protein increases the glomerular filtration rate, which can stress the kidneys and increase the risk of dehydration. But this, I will insist, is only for some people. For most healthy adults, a high protein intake will not even have an effect on your health. Okay, maybe it might lead you to eating more calories and you will gain weight, but it will not really lead to dehydration or kidney issues. To add to this likely problem that can affect a few people, we need to note that a high focus on protein can actually lead to the displacement of other important nutrients in our diet. For example, research has shown that for every 10% increase in protein intake, there is a corresponding decrease in fiber intake and also a corresponding decrease in carb intake. And like I said, it's not just about the weight, we also need to think about our health. So if we are eating a high protein diet and this is resulting in a decrease in other important nutrients such as carbs and fats, then this will have an effect on our health. We might lose weight, but our health might not be as good as it was when we were balancing everything out. If protein shakes and lunch bars are not the key to weight loss, then what should people do? I will share the strategies that I use in my Better in 90 program, which has been designed to help women lose weight and keep it off. And we do these using simple and sustainable methods. And when it comes to protein, we really keep it simple. This is what you can do. First, find your sweet spot. Like I said, many people will do well on the recommended daily intake for protein, which is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, or 0.36 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I'll keep doing the pounds and the kilos separately because I know people come from different countries with different metric systems. Now, these 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight will apply to sedentary individuals. But if you're a bit more active or if you're trying to lose fat, your intake will change. And here you can go up to 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And this will increase for your increased need for muscle repair and growth, and also to preserve your muscles as you lose fat. So let's say someone is 70 kilograms, which will be 154 pounds. What will this look like for such a person if they're active or if they're trying to lose fat? In this case, their intake would go up to 84 grams to 112 grams of protein per day. And this again will depend on how active they are. 84 grams will be on the lower end, and then 112 will be on the higher end, which is about 20% of their calories per day. Secondly, you need to embrace whole foods. Where you get your protein actually does matter. I said earlier that there are very many companies out there that sell products that are seemingly high in protein, but they are low in other nutrients that are also important for your health. To be in good health as you lose or maintain your weight as it is now, you need more than just protein. And it is important to follow a diet that also includes healthy carbs and healthy fats in addition to the protein. Now let's look at these in the context of a protein shake and, lentils. Yes, lentils. I love plant-based foods. With lentils, let's say you're doing 200 grams of cooked lentils. From these, you'll get 18 grams of protein, and for the fiber, that's around 16 grams. But with a protein shake, you'll get maybe 20 grams of protein, but absolutely no fiber. And we know that fiber is important for our health. So between the two, what is really better for you? The answer will be lentils. Lentils are the healthier option. You also need to get your fiber and micronutrients, which again ties back to my previous point. Protein is not the only key when it comes to satiety. You also get satiety from fiber and healthy fats, and that is why eating a diet that is rich in vegetables, fruits, and whole grains is important. Not only do you get full from the volume of these foods, but you also get to support your metabolic health. Next, you also have to crunch those numbers. A calorie deficit is the way to go if you're trying to be successful on your weight loss journey. So as you're eating more protein and incorporating whole foods, you also need to make sure that you're tracking your total energy intake so you can avoid eating more than you need, which is a problem with high protein diets because you can end up eating so much protein that you're actually in a surplus. Finally, you need to spread your protein across meals. I saw one creator who I have covered here who was talking about dividing your protein between meals, which is a very good idea because, like I said, satiety has a cap. Research has shown that protein has a satiety cap that comes about when you've had 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. And there's also the other curve when it comes to muscle protein synthesis, which is how much protein your body can actually use at a time. So to avoid the effect of diminishing returns when it comes to satiety, as well as how much protein your body actually puts to use, you need to spread your protein across meals instead of just having it in one meal. For example, if you need 90 grams of protein per day, then you can spread these across 3 meals so that you're having 30 grams of protein per meal. This way you get to remain within your calorie range while also still supporting your muscle. The key takeaway here is that while protein is very essential to our diets, we do not need an excess amount of it to lose weight, build muscle, or even be healthy. If you can focus on a calorie deficit and a balanced diet, you can maintain your muscle and lose weight. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me on yet another weight loss myth video. Let me know what you think about the protein craze in the comments. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to hit that like and subscribe button so that you do not miss out on my next video, which will be coming out next week. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.